Act 2, Scene 1. Here's a synopsis of Act 2 in total. Macbeth sees quote unquote dagger of the mind leading him towards Duncan's murder. Lady Macbeth has drugged the guards, noting that Duncan's resemblance to her father has stayed her from doing the deed herself. After the murder, Macbeth carries the bloody daggers from the chamber, causing Lady Macbeth to reprimand him for his great show of emotion. After she returns the daggers and smears the guards with blood, she tells Macbeth, "A little water clears us of this deed." The porter attends the knocking at the gate, creating a comic relief scene of his imaginings. Macbeth discovers the body. Macduff discovers the body, and Macbeth kills the guards, explaining the act as his overwrought response to their unjust offense. Duncan's sons realize their danger and decide that Malcolm will go to England and Donalbain will go to Ireland. Their flight makes them suspect, and Macbeth is crowned King of Scotland. So that's Act 2 in total. Act 2, Scene 1 has another really famous soliloquy, Macbeth's Dagger of the Mind soliloquy. So let's jump into Banquo, who has accompanied, synopsis of just this scene, who has accompanied Duncan to Inverness, this is Macbeth's castle, right, is uneasy because he too is tempted by the witch's prophecies, although only in his dreams. Macbeth pretends to have forgotten them. Left alone by Banquo, Macbeth sees a gory dagger leading him to Duncan's room. Hearing the bell rung by Lady Macbeth to signal completion of her preparations for Duncan's death, Macbeth exits to kill the king. Enter Banquo and Fleance with a torch before him. "How goes the night, boy?" "The moon is down. I have not heard the clock." Fleance, Banquo's son. "And she goes down at 12. "I take 'tis later, sir." "Hold, take my sword." "There's husbandry in heaven, frugality in heaven. Their candles are all out. Take thee that too, a heavy summons. Summons call to sleep lies like lead upon me." Banquo's tired, right? "I'm tired. And yet I would not sleep. Merciful powers restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose." Here comes Macbeth. "Give me my sword." "Who's there?" This is great. "A friend." Which, all is fair, fair is foul. Everything is the opposite. Everything is what's not. This is not true right now, right? They were best friends, but now that Macbeth has decided to murder the king, they're not really friends anymore, right? This is a lie. So, "What, sir? Not yet at rest? The king's abed. He hath been an unusual pleasure and sent forth great largesse to your offices. This diamond he greets your wife withal, by the name of most kind hostess, and shut up in measureless content." Macbeth. "Being unprepared, our will became the servant of defect, which else should have wrought." Banquo. "All's well. I dreamt last night of the three weird sisters, the witches." Here's Banquo dreaming of the sisters. "To you they have showed some truth. I think not of them." Another lie, right? Macbeth is just the opposite here. I think this is all this is all Macbeth is thinking about. "Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it in some words upon that business, if you would grant the time." "At your kindest leisure. If you shall cleave to my consent, when 'tis it shall make honor for you. So I lose none. Provided that I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchised, free from guilt." Banquo, both Banquo and Macbeth are good. Macbeth was good until he decided this ambition. Banquo is honorable, right? "My bosom allegiance is, I want to be guilt-free. I shall be counseled. Good repose the while." "Thanks, sir, the like to you." Banquo and Macbeth leave. "Go bid thy mistress, when my drink is ready, she strike upon the bell, get thee to bed." And here it is. Here's a really famous Macbeth's third soliloquy, the dagger of their mind. The dagger of the mind soliloquy. "Is this a dagger which I see before me? This phantom dagger. The handle toward my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still." It's this phantom, this ghost dagger. This dagger just floating, right? "Out there not fatal vision, sensible here perceptible." You're not to feeling as to sight. Remember, all is and it is not, right? This floating dagger, this dagger of the mind, this phantom ghost dagger, to feeling as to sight, or art thou but a dagger of the mind? There it is, right? A false creation, proceeding from the heat oppressed brain. I see thee yet in form as palpable as this which now I draw. Thou marshallest me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use, this dagger I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dungeon gouts of blood, wooden hilt, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs here, gives shape. Thus to mine eyes, now o'er the one half world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse. Nature seems dead, right? All nature seems dead. There's no turning back here for Macbeth. The curtains sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, the goddess of sorcery, right? That's an allusion to the weird sisters, the witches, and withered murder. Alarmed, call to action by his sentinel, the wolf, whose howl is watched thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides, Tarquin's a Roman tyrant, towards his design, moves like a ghost. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk for fear the very stones prate of my whereabout, and take the present horror from the time, which now suits with it. Well, whiles I threat he lives, words to the heat of deeds too cold, breath gives. A bell rings. That's the bell tolls for Duncan, right? I go and it is done. That's the murder. It is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. There's no turning back. But was there ever, and this is a great thing with Macbeth too, we can look at, and that's the end of the famous dagger soliloquy, the end of Act 2, Scene 1. In Macbeth's third soliloquy, he sees a vision of an imaginary dagger. The hallucination strengthens Macbeth's resolve to commit murder. Macbeth alone envisions a bloody dagger dangling in front of him. The hallucination is a product of his mind. There is a pause here in the action of the play while Macbeth speaks aloud his inner thoughts. This verbalization of inner thoughts is a key point for all soliloquies. The dagger symbolizes Macbeth's deep inner dark desire to commit murder. It is dripping with blood, demonstrating the violence Macbeth both fears and desires. In this soliloquy, Macbeth worries over his decision and finally resolves to action. This is a turning point here. I'm curious, though, and this is another overarching theme Macbeth asks us. I'm always fascinated and beguiled myself when people say, well, everything happens for a reason. I mean, does that beg then? Is everything fated to happen no matter what? And is there no free will? So, and that's a question in this play. Does Macbeth have free will? Can he choose not to act? Or is everything predetermined, fated to happen by the weird sisters, the witches? And that's a question, right? You can't have it both ways. You can't have, well, everything happens for a reason and then we have free will. Obviously, Banquo is, I dreamt about them, but I want my conscience to be clear. And Macbeth goes the opposite reason. So that's a broader, bigger question too. Determine, are things determined or is there free will? And Macbeth is really turning things over. And here's a turning point. When Macbeth is waiting right now, he sees the bloody dagger and he's getting ready to wade into the river of blood to go and kill Duncan.